Okay. So this was a fun last minute surprise where we were able to get Michael to come on and talk a little bit about what's going on the ground in Georgia. But our main guest is now here. And this is somebody who is running for chair of the Florida Democratic Party. It is a party that has really lost its way. It has very little power. It has very little meaning and substance. And we really need that to change if there's ever a chance of anything progressive in any way happening in the state of Florida.
So much to talk about.
This is Ione Townsend, and she's going to come on and we're going to talk with her about the future of the Florida Democratic Party. Hi, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
We're good. I know it's late.
Happy New Year.
I know it's late.
I know it's past my bedtime.
I feel you. I understand that, but for some reason there's this expectation that we stay up late tonight, and we have to do it.
Yeah,
we must persevere.
We are serving the people, so we must do this.
So I wanna first start off with you. Give a little bit of your background in terms of the Democratic Party, what your history is in relation to that. And then we'll talk about like where we need to go, like what the vision is, but just give a little intro into yourself and where you are.
Okay. I'm from Hillsborough County, and I grew up in Maine. I'm a lifelong Democrat. I broke my political teeth on campaigning as a volunteer for George Mitchell's Senate race, usually with a couple of kids in tow. And it was in the days when we had green graph paper. You know, we didn't have minivan or other digital tools. We had green graph paper. And you didn't know if you were knocking on a Democrat's door or a Republican door. You just knocked on every door and talked to whoever was there. So, anyway, I actually ran for school board, served one term as school board in my community in Maine. And then when our youngest went off to college, we decided to come to Florida. My husband was born and raised in Florida, and we always knew we were going to eventually be here. And so we came in 2005, started snowbirding in 2002, and then finally settled in 2005. I got involved with the Hillsborough County Democratic Party in 2012. In 2008, for Barack Obama, I was in Pasco County. And then we moved, sort of following our children. Our oldest son and our two oldest grandchildren moved to Orlando. So we said, okay, Pasco is not going to cut it. We got to be in Hillsborough, and we'll be near the I-4 corridor. So we settled in Plant City, and I got involved in the Hillsborough County Democratic Party in 2012.
Okay.
And so I got involved in leadership, though, in 2014, and I've been in leadership ever since.
So look, from an outsider's perspective, and I mean, I'm an outsider in the sense that I'm not involved in like the party dynamics, but I am a member of the Democratic Party. But what do you think in our state party has been the biggest problem? Like, what is the stem of the issue? Why we're not doing so great?
I'll say, let me count the ways.
Yeah.
So it's not just one issue, but we can start with the bylaws. The bylaws were written in 1976. They're not 21st century bylaws, and they need to change. They're a major stumbling block for us in terms of being more inclusive and lifting up more voices, bringing more voices to the table, getting more ideas, and especially lifting up the voices of minority communities. So we absolutely need to change those bylaws because they're tripping us up. And in this election for chair, maybe 250 people will have a vote for the chair and the 4 other officers and 11 DNC members. So, and we have how many million Democrats in the state of Florida? So, that's not really representative, right? It's certainly not democracy in action. So I have a major problem with the bylaws. The second thing I think is overuse of consultants and the same consultants over and over and over again with,
They're pricey, aren't they?
They're persistent. They keep showing up. And, the definition of insanity, you keep doing the same thing over and over again, you're going to get the same results. And that's what's been happening. So that's another major issue. We don't really have a very good infrastructure, or if we do have an infrastructure, it's hard to pin it down.
Yeah.
And so there are lots of other issues as well, but those I think would be the top 3 issues.
Let me ask you about your thoughts on the entanglement between the party and corporate money and special interest money. When I went to the state convention, I don't know, when was that, last year?
No,
was it
2018?
2018?
Yes.
But I noticed that it was sponsored by Big Sugar and Walmart. And I find that very hard to reconcile for a party that is supposedly the party of labor to be completely interchangeable with management, essentially, because that's what it is. And so I find that to be particularly problematic. So, what are your thoughts on the corporate interest in the party?
Well, fundamentally, I would say that we shouldn't be taking donations from entities whose product or whose practices conflict with our platform. But unfortunately, we don't have a platform.
Okay, that's a good start.
There's another issue. But clearly, we know what should be. We have a pretty good idea what should be in that platform, right?
Yeah.
And in terms of the environment, we should not be taking money from polluters, right? Walmart, most of their employees have to have some sort of government assistance because they're not paid a living wage. Health insurance, they don't often have health insurance. So there are problems with that, taking money from those entities. I agree 100%.
Yeah, so I didn't even realize that there wasn't a platform. But what's really interesting is I was asked by the State Progressive Caucus to be on the platform committee for the Progressive Caucus. And I said, sure, I'd be happy to do that. I'd love to, because now you're talking about actual policy. This could actually do something. Yeah, no one ever held a meeting. Nobody ever called anything. Nothing happened. Just nothing happened. So I'm not surprised to hear that there's no platform, because there was no meeting of a platform committee.
I have a question, Ione. I think that one of the things that ultimately doesn't get talked about enough, especially in the state of Florida, is the South Florida bias, and that's putting it nicely. The last 2 chairs, including the one that they're trying to force through now, are all from Southeast Florida. And that kind of singles out a lot of people throughout the state. And let's be honest, a lot of people do not particularly like South Florida and other parts of the state, because most of the people here are not from Florida. Jen happens to be an exception to the rule.
I'm a 2nd generation native. My dad was born here. So I'm like next to the indigenous.
She's a rare breed in the wild here in South Florida.
Yes.
So when you're not giving voice to, and maybe I'm a little biased on this, and you happen to be from that area, you and Janelle happen to be from the I-4 corridor portion of the state, which to me, Orlando, Tampa is really where everything happens, because it's the closest proximity to the north end of the state, to the south end of the state.
And it's more representative.
Yes.
It's more representative, I think. The population that you're going to find in Central Florida is more representative of the whole than what you're going to find down here.
And you'll get people from the Northeast that will migrate to the Orlando metropolitan area, but you'll also get people that are from the Midwest. You'll get a lot more native Floridians, and you'll get people that are a lot more open to the ideals that exist maybe in parts of like Naples and Miami, as it would relate to places like Ocala, Gainesville, and Jacksonville, which is, again, down here, I have no problem where I am, and I think you got a lot of great people down here, but the reality is they do not see the state the same way other people throughout the rest of the state see it. What I do think is the problem is the corporate special interest money. And I think that in a lot of ways is what has defined the party for many years. And obviously want to hear your thoughts on the representation that is desperately needed, not just from the perspective of not having corporate special interest money dictate the way the party moves forward, but also lending voices to other parts of the state that South Florida, unfortunately, has dominated for quite some time.
Yeah.
Well, when you go back to the bylaws and you look at the weighted vote and the fact that 250 people are going to elect the next chair and the officers in the DNC, that in itself limits input, limits voices.
How many of those people are from down here? Like, I wonder what's the proportionate, representation in those votes?
It's pretty significant. It's very significant. So actually, when you look at the 7 largest counties,
I didn't understand that.
That was Bixby. I don't know how she got on my phone.
I have Bixby. I'm not a fan. I don't like Bixby. I like it to go away. But yeah, I have that too.
And I tried to tell her to close, and she tells me that she can't close. So when you look at the 7 largest counties, there would be 14 people carrying the weighted vote. Okay, right. So for example, if this is too much detail, just tell me. But
no,
Miami-Dade has about 120 or so votes.
Wow.
Right. And those votes are carried by 2 people, the state committee man and the state committee woman.
That's like half the votes.
There's 1,250 votes total.
Okay.
And one county has 120-ish, maybe a little bit more than that. Although wow. I suspect that when the new formulas are calculated, that Miami-Dade's portion of that 1,250 is going to go down, because it is based on gubernatorial election turnout and voter registrations and presidential turnout and registrations. So it's a formula that encompasses both of those elections. And we all know that Miami-Dade has underperformed in those last 2 elections. So I suspect that they're going to lose some of their votes when the formula comes out. And it should come out any day. We've got an election in 9 days, right? So you'd think we'd have the new formula pretty soon. So that's one example. In Hillsborough, we have like 66 votes currently. And again, carried by 2 people. So that's the way it is all across the state. There's a state committee man, a state committee woman, and the 1,250 votes are divided among those state committee men and women. But the 7 largest state counties, or 14 people, can decide all the elections. If they bonded together and voted as a block, they could determine the whole thing, which would totally freeze out the Panhandle.
Yeah.
A lot of the Nature Coast, all the Nature Coast, and a lot of other small and rural counties. And it's just not democracy, and it's not fair.
Well, just the mere fact that you use the term formula, or that the system is based on a formula. So in other words, people decide how to weight something. That's just inherently going to be biased. Like that's inherently problematic to me. That doesn't sound right to me. I'm not surprised in the least.
And we unfortunately have learned that there is the issue of coalescing that goes on behind closed doors that we're not exactly privy to. Jen unfortunately was a victim of that in many ways.
Ione, the deals that get made and the compromises.
Yeah.
I do. I absolutely do. I'm hearing some of that is going on as we speak.
Well, it does. And if I, just to interject, one of the biggest problems that I have, particularly with Wasserman Schultz, is the fact that she has a very close relationship with Bloomberg, and Bloomberg is basically the one who's pushing and I'm not even going to say his name, because he is the person who is basically being front loaded, on us with they're not really giving you an option.
Yeah.
And when that happens, and we all know, for a lot of people, especially in the state party down here, there is a very vested interest in keeping this consultant class thing going.
Yeah.
And, they rotate in and out of the state. They do things like that.
It's almost incestuous.
It is. And it's not about advancing the policies, because Jen, as you could speak to, without naming any names, but there was an important person in the Broward delegation that you spoke with about policy. And what did this person say?
Wait. To whom?
About when you were talking about, hey, what's going to be on the platform? And you're like, we're only doing this.
Oh,
and
yes.
this.
Our chair of our local DEC, I had asked her, I'm like, what are you guys going to be working on this year? This was a year ago. It's like, we got to get out the vote. I'm like, okay, but What are you going to use to inspire people to come out and vote? What do you stand for? What are you offering? What is this party? And she looked at me and said, and I am not exaggerating how she said it. She goes, look, all we're doing this year is registering voters and banning assault weapons, and that's it. And I'm like, okay, well, that doesn't seem very inspired for people to come out and vote.
Yeah.
Well, the Florida Democratic Party does not have a brand.
No.
It does not have a brand. Nobody really knows what it stands for, right? And we wonder why we are losing voters.
Yeah.
And you would think with representatives that we have, like, for example, Rubio and Scott, and especially DeSantis, that if there was some semblance of a, populist progressive type uprising, it shouldn't be that difficult to go after guys like that, I would think.
Yeah.
No, and we need to. We absolutely need to. The health and welfare of our fellow citizens depends on it. It's a travesty to see where Florida has gone since the last Democratic governor. We are 46th or 47th in the nation per pupil spending.
Oh yeah, education's a travesty. Like the education is that between education and the climate, we're just completely abysmal. Completely.
Absolutely. And then you look at healthcare. We're 50th in the nation in terms of quality of healthcare. And accessibility is very poor also. So
I think what makes it so inexcusable, is how wealthy we are. When you look at a state like West Virginia or Mississippi being 46th or 48th, they have that much less resources. But how do you justify one of the top few richest states being at the bottom? Because somebody's walking away with that money. That's essentially what's happening.
And that's, you used the word bottom, and that's how I like to describe it. In the last 20 plus years under Republican control, there's been a major race to the bottom in almost all indices of quality of life in this state. That has to change. It absolutely must change. I am determined to do my part to make sure that changes. Yeah. And that's why I got in this race. That and the fact that the person that we shall lead neighbors who lives down in your neck of the woods, in my book is a sometimes Democrat and not who I think we should be handing the party over to.
Yeah, I think that we're right in talking about the first step is to establish what is the platform, what is the brand, what does it mean to be in the Democratic Party of Florida? What is that other than registering voters and banning assault weapons? Because clearly, and how uninspired, and that was our chair. Like that's who's supposed to be inspiring the bluest county in the state. We should have the most formidable of the DECs, given that we have the most people in that. Like, it's ridiculous to me how feckless they are.
Haven't made quorum in 4 years.
Wow. Oh.
Are you surprised?
I am a little bit surprised about that, but I learned just this week that it's no surprise to you all because I've seen a couple of your podcasts, but that Florida Democratic Party has not had a budget this year. We have no idea. We read in the paper $20 million has come in, $20 million has gone out, and we're left with $300,000 in the bank, and we don't know if we can make the January payroll. So, but I just lost my train of thought. But there's no budget. There's no budget in for the Florida Democratic Party. But lo and behold, I've been told that there isn't one in Palm Beach County either. So here I am in the fourth largest county, right? And so Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach are bigger, and I just assumed better than Hillsborough. But I'm telling you, I will put our record up against theirs any day of the week, and be proud to do so. And it will put them to shame. We have a budget in Hillsborough County. We have a 10-year strategic plan in Hillsborough County, and we update it every 2 years.
None of that surprises me. I told you my aunt and uncle were very instrumental in the beginning of the party in Hillsborough County, like back in the day. And so it doesn't surprise me at all that Hillsborough has it going on, because it has a very long history. Hillsborough Democrats have a very long history. And albeit there might be a smaller group back in the day, they were loud.
And it was a pretty effective party for a long time. And but in more recent years, not in the last 5 years, but the reason I got involved, because it had gone off the rails.
Yeah.
Much like, maybe Miami-Dade and Broward are now, but it was a failed organization when I, got involved in 2012, but I didn't know enough to recognize it. And it took the 2014 election for me to really see how bad things were. And that's why I got involved in leadership. And, we had $4,000 in the bank when my team took over, and no donors. All the donors had deserted us. They'd gone to Pinellas County. All the unions had gone to Pinellas. And so, we've had to work really, really hard to right this ship, but we have righted this ship. This past year alone, we've raised about $435,000. It's probably a little closer to 440. I didn't see the number today, and today's the last day. So that's pretty spectacular in 1 year.
Yeah.
And
so you can bring that same magic to the state and maybe have some sort, because you've got to figure that this has to trickle down from there. If the state party was motivated, inspired, pushing a platform, I think it would be easier to motivate the locals to do the same.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what we did in Hillsborough. I went to the donors and I explained our strategic plan and convinced some of them to buy into that and to trust us and to invest in us again. And so a few did, and we had good results. And then every year, a few more came back, and then, success breeds success. And soon our donor base was enlarging. Our fundraising was going up every year. And what happened was it became very clear that the donors trusted me and my DEC to be good stewards of their investment. And we produced results as well. And it was all based on that strategic plan and many other factors. But, you got to have a plan.
You got to have a plan.
Ione, one very important thing as it relates to what transpired here over the last year. Unfortunately, when Jen ran for Congress, it was, we could just say that the deck was stacked against her in many ways. What is your opinion about inter-party primaries, for one? And how do you feel about union endorsements and how that process ultimately takes place?
Well, let's talk about endorsements in general, okay? Yeah. Let's look at what's happened here in the chairs race. So all of a sudden, the gentleman in South County, not South County, but in Miami-Dade, announces that he's going to run, and all of a sudden, all the electeds endorse.
Yeah.
See who else is going to run. So the
frozen camera.
Hopefully it snaps
it'll work
itself.
It'll work itself out.
I hope it works itself out.
Yeah.
I don't know, but yeah. I was kind of curious about the question about how she views.
There you go.
That's okay. You were frozen, but you're back. All right. So they all jump behind lock, stock, and barrel. They don't even bother to wait or ask or anything. They just get in line.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct. But the interesting thing about all those endorsements are that most of them don't carry any votes. So, endorsements in general, I think there's got to be a better way. I really personally, I would advocate for waiting for the field to be fleshed out. Know who's running. How can you endorse if you don't know who everybody is that's going to run and who the best candidate might be? So primaries serve a purpose. I do not believe in stepping on the scale. I don't think that's the job of the party chair. I don't do it in Hillsborough County. We let the voters decide who the primary winner is.
Do you have like open the discussion? Like for example, our DEC, if you didn't know that there was a race taking place, you wouldn't have ever known it from them. They pretended that this wasn't happening. They completely ignored it. They hosted panels for all of the county races, for all of the state legislature races. They basically just completely pretended that Debbie was not being challenged. And that's how she keeps them. She keeps them in line. And so basically they would say things like, oh, we don't get involved in primaries.
But that's not true.
But it isn't true. It isn't true. It's just true when it's convenient for it to be true. Right. And that's the problem, you know? So it's like, if you're going to be, to me, a party should be open to anybody within that party stepping up and wanting to represent.
And we saw Alan Grayson running a primary not too long ago, and everybody was fine with that, you know? But again, I mean, we all know, you know, Debbie in many ways is still, you know, the one pulling the strings behind the scenes. And, you know, if we had people that were representing the party in a way that say, listen, we're not asking you to support Jen.
No,
all we're asking
we just didn't want to be ghosted.
Yeah, we just want a fair fight. And
right.
You know, and then it led to an even, but as much as the local DEC and, you know, I don't care if they're watching, but the person who heads the local Democratic clubs in Broward County, they have been personal friends with Debbie for 30 years. So to say that there is a conflict of interest would be an understatement. But the biggest issue of them all is Dan Reynolds, who is the head of the Broward County AFL-CIO. And what ultimately ends up happening is all of the unions essentially fall under that blockade. One of them actually went against him and decided to endorse, which was the Ironworkers, which was amazing. And then you better believe he brought the hammer down right after that. The problem that occurred was that Jen was entitled to a screening with the rank and file. Reynolds decided to break the bylaws and not even acknowledge that she was alive and did not grant her a screening. To me, that is a very big problem. And you have to be able to at least allow the candidate, because when Canova ran against Debbie in 2016, he was granted a screening. To me, one of the reasons Jen was not granted a screening is because they actually thought Jen could beat Debbie. So they wanted to make sure that her opportunities were as limited as possible. So as far as I can tell, even if that's what they think, it's still you should not be able to break the bylaws. And as the chair, I would think that you just want to encourage democracy as far as I'm concerned.
That's correct. That's correct.
You know, say, listen,
let the voters decide.
Exactly. If Jen is the better representative, then she has a right to present herself to, and that goes for anybody throughout the state who feels that they are, you know, the best suited person to run. There is somebody who, knock on wood, we actually hope is going to run for governor in the state, and we know, and she's from your neck of the woods. I think you know who she is.
We're not going to mention names.
Yeah, but we definitely think that she is somebody who the party apparatus is not going to support, and they're going to get behind their candidate, and we're going to see that unfold as we go forward.
This could be sitting in front of you, like you could have to be dealing with they try to squash the insurgency every time.
So having that democratic process see its way through, I would assume is one of the hallmarks that you would have as the next Florida Democratic Party chair.
Absolutely. And let me tell you what I've done in Hillsborough County. I feel so strongly that we should not step on the scales in a primary, that we created a policy that all the officers signed on to, and that we would not endorse or donate or participate in fundraising activities for any candidate in the primary. And all the officers agreed to that, and that's the rules that we live by. So we spend the primary getting ready to go the day after the primary and head for the general election. And we
automatically get in line behind the incumbent.
No, we do not. That it's still up to the voters to decide that.
We can dream down here. We can dream.
How would you separate in a closing statement, if you will? How would you distinguish yourself from the other candidates in the race? And we do think that there are some formidable candidates that are also running. But what would you say are you could say like your top three. What is basically what is going to separate you from the competition and say, yeah, we definitely have to support Ms. Townsend to be the next Florida Democratic Party chair.
Yeah.
I think number one, I've got a record that I can stand on. A very successful record of turning a county that could win at the top of the ticket but could never win down ticket. So I took a party that was, did I freeze again?
No, you're good.
You're good. You're good. Somebody had asked who you were, so I just put the graphic up.
Okay. All right. So we could win the top of the ticket. So when Barack Obama came in 2008, we could give Barack Obama 34,000 voter advantage, and did the same in 2012. And we've done that at the top of the ticket right along. But we couldn't win down ticket.
Yeah.
We just couldn't.
Yep.
But we have turned that around. So we have gone from a 5-2 controlled county commission by Republicans to a 5-2 Democratic control of the county commission and the school board. We have Democrats in 6 out of 7 constitutional seats. The only one we don't have is the sheriff. And we win all the way down to soil and water now. So so that's number one. We don't leave any races uncontested. We put up good candidates. We do a lot of candidate development. We also raise a lot of money and help our candidates financially. We donate to their campaigns.
What would that be like? I cannot.
I love the down up approach. That's the way it's supposed to be. It is not supposed to be Reaganomics, which we're still living in the. It's amazing, Ione, as you've seen so much since he took over in 80, and it's just kind of, and it's both sides. I mean, it's not just the Republicans, it's the Democrats too. But we're still fighting Reaganism. We are.
Let her finish.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I love Pope Francis's explanation for trickle down economics and why it never gets down to the rest of us. Because when the cup gets full, the rich just go get a bigger cup, right? I love Pope Francis's explanation of that. So, so I bring a lot of executive skills to the table too. I've been a hospital executive for 17 years. I've had multi-million-dollar budgets, managed hundreds and hundreds of employees. So I bring that skill set to the table. So I understand things like human resources and compliance issues and a lot of other issues that come with executive experience. So that's another thing that I bring that others don't have. But I also have a fierce determination, and I'm also very, very transparent. And
that's the key
that's
thing.
something that is a key thing. And I operate with open books. We have a budget. We show it every month. We show everybody in the membership where we are in terms of the budget. We also show the bank statements so that everybody knows what money has come in, where it's come from, where it goes, right down to the last postage stamp. So, I have a fierce determination to reform this party. It needs a top-down overhaul. And I bring competence to the table with a record of a tremendous success in just 5 short years. And I believe transparency and accountability. I don't sweep things under the rugs. I'll take accountability for the problems. The buck will stop with me. I will not delegate away authority.
See, I love that. And you know what's interesting? In all the times that I was campaigning, you would be amazed at the amount of people that it's not so much results. They just want transparency and honesty about what you're doing. It's like somebody understands that you're not going to immediately be able to do everything they want you to do. But what they want is somebody who's going to come clean about what they're doing. It's fascinating what you can do when you're just honest with people.
Correct. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Ione, it's been a real pleasure having you.
Wait, first of all, your name is Ione. How do you pronounce?
It's Ione. I own this jacket. It belongs to me. It's okay. You are forgiven.
Because I looked it up and there are several acceptable pronunciations.
Right. No, it is Ione. I own this jacket.
Well, you have certainly owned this podcast for the past half hour. You are an exceptionally strong candidate, and
I'm so sorry that we didn't know, and really, we were just so neurotic about.
Give credit to Michael Calderon. He's the one who brought you to our attention, and we're certainly glad that he did.
Yeah. So thank you so much.
They've endorsed me.
Yes, and as soon as I'm like, well, and the truth is, as soon as I knew there was somebody else in, I wanted to reach out and make sure that we had you on and talk to you, because I just didn't even know. Bad me, and I take it was unprofessional. So thank you so much, and I know it's late, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
Hopefully we'll get a chance to work together at some point.
You never know.
Maybe I'll get to see you at a convention that's not sponsored by Big Sugar.
There you go. I'm with you on that.
Thank you. Have a nice day to meet you.
Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Same to you. Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, she certainly is
capable.
She's
certainly very capable.
No, she's very capable. She definitely knows what she's doing. And, listen, I hope that she and Janelle and whoever else could potentially get together, but she's got the Progressive Caucus supports her. No, she has, and she has experience. There's no question that she does. She has a command. So yeah, and we're gonna have Dr. Chestnut come on as well, and hear what she has to say. And we definitely want to give everybody the opportunity to state their case. But I think Ione definitely stated a very strong case, here tonight.
Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.